Welcome. Tonight, federal government pledges support for Nigeria's armed forces, promises to equip them not only with modern weapons but also with the necessary training and technological innovation to confront contemporary security challenges. Edo State Governor Monday Okwebolo says the state and federal government are collaborating to unravel the remote circumstances surrounding the killing of some hunters in Uromi last month. 2 days after launching the special agro-processing zone in Kaduna, northwest Nigeria, Vice President Kashim Shettima performs groundbreaking for the second phase of the project in Calabar. And trade war between Washington and Beijing deepens as US President Donald Trump slams China with a 145% tariff on Chinese goods entering America.
On business news tonight, Dangote Refinery cuts ex-depot petrol price to 865 naira per litre following full implementation of the Naira for crude policy by the federal government.
On sports news tonight, the Nigeria Football Federation confirms the Super Eagles of Nigeria will take on the Black Stars of Ghana in the Unity Cup Four Nations Invitational in Brentford on May the 28th.
And from the nation's capital, UN Assistant Secretary General and UNDP Regional Director emphasizes need for African leaders to re-engineer their economies for the people's benefit.
In spite of the huge task Nigeria still faces in protecting lives and property, the nation's security architecture cannot be complete without the armed forces, as they play crucial roles which are clearly spelled out in the nation's constitution. For that reason, the federal government has pledged unwavering support to the Nigerian armed forces, promising to equip them not only with modern weaponry, but with the necessary training, intelligence, and technological innovation to confront contemporary security challenges. This was disclosed by the President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, who was represented by Senator Abdulaziz Yaradua during a strategic meeting hosted by the National Defense College in collaboration with the Irregular Warfare Center in Abuja. Our correspondent, Benny Ark, reports.
The National Defense College, through its Irregular Warfare Center, is hosted this high-level roundtable in Abuja to present findings from its field research on joint task force operations. The event aims to share insights from February 2025 research conducted across 6 geopolitical zones to assess the impact of security operations on local communities. In attendance are representatives of the nation's security chiefs, defense officials, government representatives, academics, security personnel, community leaders, and civil society organizations. The commandant of the National Defense College sets the agenda for the event by highlighting the importance of the findings of the report.
The field researches were not merely an academic exercise, rather they were a mission to gather objective insights that can inform strategic decision-making and contribute to a more effective and sustainable approach to security and stability in Nigeria.
This research is so timely that it will give us an insight to what we need to do, what we need to improve on, so that we will, at the end of the day, achieve the common goals which Mr. President sent us to do.
The root causes of this insecurity has to be attacked. The causes of poverty, inequality, and unemployment.
The Senate President, Mr. Godswill Akpabio, who is represented, reaffirms the federal government's commitment to address modern security challenges.
The National Assembly stands as a steadfast ally to our armed forces. We remain fully committed to supporting you, not only in defending our sovereignty, but in evolving into an elite world-class force. We will ensure you are equipped not only with weapons, but with training, intelligence, innovation, and the moral mandate of the people.
With a high-level roundtable, it is hoped that the findings will drive continued strategic dialogue and collaboration for a safer, more prosperous Nigeria. Benny Ark, Channels Television News.
Let's bring you up to speed with the security situation in Bokos Plateau State, where Deputy Inspector General of Police in charge of operations, Kwazi Dali Yakubu, has resumed duties at the local government to direct affairs and strengthen security with the redeployment of personnel and operational infrastructure to the troubled communities. The police DIG, in company of security heads in the state, including the Commissioner of Police, embarked on an assessment of security situation in the affected communities of Bokos local government area. The team thereafter had an interactive session with a cross-section of community and religious leaders, as well as stakeholders, on ways to maintaining peace and harmony in the local government. The Deputy Inspector General of Police made clear his mission to the state and steps being taken to restore law and order.
The measures has already been put in place. A unit of mobile policemen has already arrived Bokos as directed by the Inspector General of Police. A platoon of the Special Intervention Squad has also arrived Bokos with the equipments combat ready to go after these bandits. We understand that there is nothing like farmers-herders clash in what has just happened in Hurti. These are purely criminals that needs to go after them. And the IG has assured the people under the watch and the leadership of His Excellency the President that justice will be done to the people of Hurti and the Bokos. And that is why we are here, to sustain this patrol with this deployment that has already been handed over to the state government, and which in turn has deployed these machineries to Bokos local government. What I saw on this on-spot assessment visit, I am going to also convey same on my findings, and possibly with some other suggestions that I will also bring to his notice for further directives.
In Edo State, Governor Monday Okpewolo says the federal government, in collaboration with the state government, are taking steps to unravel the remote circumstances surrounding the killing of some hunters in Uromi last month, with the setting up of a fact-finding committee. Governor Okpewolo disclosed this when he received a high-powered delegation from Kano, led by the Deputy Governor of Kano State, Comrade Aminu Gwazo, at the Government House in Benin City. The governor explains that in spite of what happened in Uromi, President Bola Tinubu is committed to ensuring that Nigerians are safe while conducting their lawful businesses.
I think because of what has happened, unfortunate as it is, it has opened a lot of windows for us to see ourselves and to come close to each other and continue to collaborate for the unity and development of our respective states and the nation at large. So, Your Excellency, as you were informed when you were in Kano, a committee was already set in place to screen and verify and establish truly names of the victims, the number of the victims, those who have lost their lives, their next of kings, and those who survived. We are able to compile a report. After you left, the committee submitted its report, and I decided on the governor's instruction to come with the report raw as it is and present it to you. We have already been assured by His Excellency when he was in Kano and even before he left Edo that justice will be done and justice will be seen to have been done.
Let me thank the Governor of Kano State for his hospitality. I'm very happy, particularly because this incident that has happened has opened our eyes and it has addressed so many issues in this country. I spoke with the NSA yesterday night at about 11 o'clock and he felt so bad. The president is not in the country at the moment, but the president is not happy with what has happened. He wants to personally see an end to all these issues. I want to also let you know that the president and Edo State, we are setting up a committee to look into the remote cause of this issue and put a lasting solution to it. This report will actually help us so that we don't have to bother you so much.
From Edo, let's head to Delta State, where Governor Sheriff Oborevwori has reaffirmed his administration's commitment to the protection of lives and property across the state. Addressing the prevailing issue of insecurity, the governor emphasized that the challenge is not peculiar to Delta alone, but part of a broader national concern. He assured residents that his government, in collaboration with security agencies, is working tirelessly to contain the situation. He noted that significant progress has been made in the fight against kidnapping and other violent crimes. Well, the governor made these remarks during the swearing-in of the new head of service in the state, Dr. Mini Oseji, and the inauguration of Pastor Austin Igbine as chairman of the board of Delta Printing and Publishing Company, publishers of the Pointer newspaper at Government House, Asaba.
I want to assure all Deltans and residents in the state that this administration is on top of the security situation. The challenges are enormous. However, the security agencies have been up and doing to ensure our security and safety. As the Chief Security Officer of the state, I'm aware of the several successes the security agencies have recorded and keep making in the fight against kidnapping and other forms of violent crime through preemptive strikes and other combat operations. Obviously, it will be counterproductive to avail the public of the measures the security agencies have put in place to reduce these violent crimes to the barest minimum. It's not everything you will say publicly, but I know that security issues is not peculiar to only Delta State in general. But we're doing our best to manage the process. We've done a lot, but it's not everything we are going to expose, because there are some we're still looking for. And by the grace of God, we will do our best to make sure Delta State is safe and peaceful. But please be assured that the security agencies are not relenting, and as government, we have continued to strengthen our partnership by providing them with necessary tools and resources they need to be effective in their operations.
In part two after the break, 2 days after launching the special agro-processing zone in Kaduna, northwest Nigeria, Vice President Kashim Shettima performs groundbreaking for the second phase of the project in Calabar, Cross River State. Please stay with us. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10, live on Channels Television Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. Federal government pledges support for Nigeria's armed forces, promises to equip them not only with modern weaponry, but also with the necessary training and technological innovation to confront contemporary security challenges. Governor of Edo State, Monday Okwebolo, says the state and federal government are collaborating to unravel the remote circumstances surrounding the killing of some hunters in Uromi last month. 2 days after launching the special agro-processing zone in Kaduna, northwest Nigeria, Vice President Kashim Shettima performs groundbreaking for the second phase of the project in Calabar. And trade war between Washington and Beijing deepens as U.S. President Donald Trump slams China with a 145% tariff on Chinese goods entering America. Members of organized labor unions today stormed the Ministry of Steel Development, demanding better welfare for workers there and protesting the unjust sack of some workers. The labor unions, led by the head organizer, Comrade Echi Asuzu, barricaded the main gate of the ministry's headquarters and prevented staff of the ministry from gaining access into their offices. Carrying placards with different inscriptions and singing solidarity songs, the organized labor kicked against the federal government's maltreatment of its staff, calling for better wages.
Labour solidarity songs rent the air as members of the Nigeria Labour Congress gear up for another dispute. From the Labour House, the workers drive in a convoy to the Ministry of Steel Development. They are not here to show any solidarity. Rather, they have a bone to chew with the federal government. The premises is under lock and key. However, the union has this to say.
I want all my money paid with inflationary losses and consolidated interest, all paid to my money with my reinstatement, or pay me all since they want to pay all in money. All the entitlements, all the allowances, all the benefits that they are denied him all these years. And then the ministry had the option to go to appeal. They never did, because they knew that that judgment was founded on the true precepts of law. And therefore, the matter lapsed and became statute barred. And these are commonly waited patiently, kept pleading with them. Please pay me what the judge said you should pay me, since you don't want to restate me. And this ministry has refused. Under various ministers, they have refused to do the needful. No.
Shortly after, the permanent secretary arrives to address the crowd.
Thank you all very much for your organized nature and conduct. And when we see labor like this, we know that they are out in the interest of the Nigerian workers. We cannot discuss under this environment. I would like to appeal to you to nominate some leaders to come with me so that we can discuss why you are aggrieved and what the issues are.
He informs them that the process has started, asking the NLC members to exercise patience. The gathering then dispersed.
All right, it's enough, please.
In a bid to boost its economy and agricultural potential, the Cross River State government, in collaboration with the African Development Bank and the federal government, has flagged off the establishment of a special agro-industrial processing hub in Cross River. Speaking in Tinapa, Calabar, the venue of the groundbreaking ceremony, the governor of the state explained that the hub will enhance agricultural productivity, improve food security, and empower local farmers. While the president of the AFDB, Dr. Akumi Additional, reaffirmed the bank's commitment to supporting inclusive agricultural transformation across the continent.
Today marks a watershed initiative by my administration in establishing the renewable resource base of the state by fully utilizing agriculture and its multiple value chain. It is an incontrovertible fact that the extractive industry, which embodies oil and gas exploration, quarrying of solid minerals, Mining of rare earth minerals, etc., has a definite quantum to be extracted before it's exhausted. What is left behind includes dry oil wells and deep craters in mine sites. But the arable land with bumper yields that accompanied agro-business remains renewable every passing year, defying depletion. This is the wonder nature holds in store for human beings to live and also to thrive. This paradigm shift from non-renewable to renewable resource base also holds the key to the prosperity of many nations. Hence, an imperative to join the League of Subnationals in Nigeria that adopts agriculture as the mainstay of its economy. For us in Cross River State, the establishment of a cluster of smallholders farmers in staples and cash crops such as rice, cassava, millet, cocoa, oil palm, etc., across the state is a right step towards the agro-industrial revolution. Besides, the farmers are engaged in mechanized agriculture. Since the financial resource that accrued to the state is negligible as compared to the requirement for the establishment of both the special agro-industrial processing zone and the agricultural industrial hub, there is need for the private sector partnership. To this end, the African Development Bank, in collaboration with the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security and the government of Cross River State, have found a strategic tripod team to drive these projects. The deliverables of the envisaged projects are food security, diversification of the state economy towards export-oriented trajectory, and increase in the state gross domestic product, our GDP.
I am delighted to be here today for this landmark groundbreaking ceremony for the development of special agro-industrial processing zones in Cross River State. I wish to congratulate you, Your Excellency, Governor Bassi Otu, for your incredible leadership, vision, dedication, passion, and tenacity that have led to this historic groundbreaking for the development of the special agro-industrial processing zone in Cross River State. 2 days ago, I was together with His Excellency, Vice President Kashim Shettima, and Governor Uba Sani in Kaduna State as we did the groundbreaking of the special agro-industrial processing zones for Kaduna State. And here we are again today in Calabar to do the same. How exciting. We are on a journey of good news across Nigeria. It is indeed the beginning of a new dawn. The special agro-industrial processing zones is bringing good news to Nigeria. State governments and local governments. Good news to farmers, agribusinesses, and all rural areas of Nigeria. Good news of jobs and wealth and prosperity with agriculture as a business. I wish to commend the federal government of Nigeria under the able leadership of His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for the strategic partnership that we have together with the African Development Bank for the development of these agro-industrial processing zones in Nigeria.
Meanwhile, Vice President Kashim Shettima emphasized the potential of the agro-business hub to transform rural economies and ensure sustainable development.
What is more exciting than the promise of a vibrant agricultural value chain is a step towards its fulfillment. And this gathering is one for the history books. There is no intervention more practical in our dream of a nation. While the potential of agriculture is maximized than what has brought us together today. The groundbreaking ceremony of the Special Agro-Industrial Processing Zone. I'm more than honored to share in this collective ambition of the nation. We gather in Calabar, Cross River State today to breathe life into the construction of the second Special Agro-Industrial Processing Zone within the last 3 days after Kaduna State. And it's indeed a promise well kept by both the federal and state governments. This isn't merely to mark the commencement of a flagship project, but to celebrate a vision of agro-industrial growth and sustainable development for our dear country. This noble vision is in pursuit of the renewed hope agenda of the administration of His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu GCF.
Let's now head to the nation's capital, and Millicent Walker is standing by to give us the latest from our Abuja studios. Hello, Millicent.
Hi, Ayotunde. Many thanks. And the UN Assistant Secretary General and UNDP Regional Director for Africa, Ahunna Ezeakonwa, has made an official visit to Channels Television's headquarters today, meeting with the Chairman and CEO of Channels Media Group, Dr. John Momoh. They both discussed the role of African media in controlling the narrative of the continent's stories. She extolled the leading role by Channels Television in becoming a source of credible and reliable information from the continent to the diaspora. In an interview later, she emphasized the need for African leaders to re-engineer their economies to benefit the people.
We can't say because an aid agency withdraws from a country, the people start to die. If that's the case, that's not a country, you know? This is a rich continent. Why can't we prioritize our people? Why can't we say that Africa's money needs to work for Africa's people? We're generating a lot of resources, but a lot of it is escaping. Illicit financial flows up to $90 billion a year lost. But we then go with a begging bowl for the same money to be returned in form of aid with ties and in form of loans that have very high interest rates, right? So there needs to be a conversation that African leaders need to have with themselves and with the private sector to say we need to re-engineer our economies so that Africa's money works for Africa's people, because this continent has money.
Still ahead on the news at 10, Dangote Refinery cuts its ex-depot petrol price to 865 naira per litre following full implementation of the Naira for crude policy by the federal government. That's on Business News. Do join us again. Welcome back. You're watching the news at 10, coming to you live from our Abuja studios, and we head to the court, where Justice Inyang Ekwo of the Federal High Court Abuja has struck out a 50 billion naira suit filed by the leader of the proscribed indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu, against the federal government. In a ruling, Justice Ekwo struck out the suit for lack of diligent prosecution. At the day's hearing, neither Mr. Kanu nor the federal government were represented in court. Justice Ekwo observed that at the last adjourned date, the federal government was represented in court, while no lawyer represented the IPOB leader. The judge consequently struck out the case since it had taken 3 adjournments without representation. Mr. Kanu had sued the federal government and Attorney General of the Federation over allegations bordering on violation of his rights, alleging that he was kidnapped from Kenya and brought back to Nigeria to stand trial. He wanted the court to determine if the manner which he was abducted from Kenya and extraordinary rendition to Nigeria was consistent with the extant laws. Meanwhile, Justice James Omotosho of the Federal High Court Abuja has dismissed a 5 billion naira suit brought by 110 alleged internet fraudsters against the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, for lacking in merit. Justice Omotosho dismissed the suit on grounds that the applicants failed to prove they had been non-lawfully detained. The group were arrested inside a building in the Katankpe district of Abuja on January the 9th. According to the EFCC, the arrest followed intelligence reports suggesting the individuals were involved in fraudulent activities, including internet scams. The agency further alleges that the Chinese nationals had recruited Nigerians to participate in a fraudulent cryptocurrency scheme. The EFCC stated that while the suspects coordinated their operations from Nigeria, they used virtual private networks, VPNs, to defraud victims in the United Kingdom, posing as hoteliers. Following the arrest, the applicants hired a legal team led by Ishaka Diko SAN to enforce their fundamental human rights. The applicants accused the EFCC of violating their rights to dignity, personal liberty and fair hearing as enshrined in sections 34 to 36, 43 and 46 of the 1999 Constitution as amended. And they asked the court to declare that their detention from January the 9th to 16th exceeded the constitutionally prescribed period and was therefore illegal and unlawful, seeking 5 billion naira in damages. Justice Omotosho, however, held that the remand orders were legally permissible given the allegations that the applicants' actions posed a threat to national security, and subsequently dismissed the fundamental rights suit and urged the applicants to respond to the allegations against them. Away from the courts, the wife of the president, Senator Oluremi Tinubu, alongside the Minister of Health and wives of Nigerian governors, are advocating the elimination or reduction to the barest minimum of maternal and child mortality in the country by 2030. At an event to launch the distribution of 10,000 professional kits to midwives in the Northeast region, the wife of the president says the move is part of the Renewed Hope initiative to improve access to health in Nigeria.
It's the launch of the distribution of 10,000 professional kits, otherwise known as crocs and scrubs, to midwives in the northeastern region of Nigeria by the wife of the president, Oluremi Tinubu, alongside the wife of the vice president, governors' wives, wives of service chiefs, the coordinating minister of health, among others. The aim is to eliminate or reduce maternal and child mortality in the country by 2030 through encouraging frontline health workers and support the tireless dedication of midwives in the Northeast zone.
I would like to take this opportunity to express my sincere gratitude for your benevolent gesture, to assure you that these resources will be utilized nicely and effectively for the intended purposes.
The executive director of the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency, as well as the coordinating minister of health, give an overview of the project.
Your Excellency's donation of 10,000 professional kits to primary healthcare midwives in the Northeast is part of her zonal contribution. This is the fourth in the series of the contributions. And it is part of what the Renewed Hope initiative, which she shares, is doing in furtherance of her commitment to enabling universal access to health for all Nigerians.
More than 8,500 health workers have been trained, of which 1,300 are from Taraba. And there are more than 1,000 facilities in the Northeast that receive quarterly disbursements from the Basic Healthcare Provision Fund. 170 of them are here in Taraba. This is from the federal government to ensure resources are flowing to the front end so that services can be delivered.
For Governor Agbu Kaifas, the Renewed Hope initiative aligns with his five-finger agenda of improving access to quality healthcare delivery and commends the wife of the president for the initiative.
This initiative goes straight to the heart of what matters: protecting life, restoring dignity, and giving new hopes to families. Today, life is full of difficulties, and health challenges are among the highest.
The wife of the president, Senator Oluremi Tinubu, in her remark, says the Renewed Hope initiative is aimed at eliminating the increasing spate of maternal and child mortality by 2030 and insists that it is also to complement training of frontline health workers by the federal government.
All 6 geopolitical zones will receive 10,000 scrubs and 10,000 pairs of crocs, which will be distributed among states in each zone. By the grace of God, the next zone to benefit will be the Southwest in Ondo State.
Please, our dear mothers, the First Lady.
Before the launch of the distribution of the professional kits to midwives, the wife of the president had met with traditional rulers from the state to get their buy-in into the project and collaborate with them on the way forward towards eliminating maternal and child mortality, HIV/AIDS, cervical cancer, among others.
And it's now back to Lagos for more on the news at 10. Ayatunde, take it away.
Thank you so much, Millicent. Nigeria's former president, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, and Vice President, Professor Yemi, former Vice President, that is, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, were among a host of distinguished guests, including present government officials, Politicians and renowned leaders who converged to pay tribute to the remarkable life and legacy of the former Attorney General and Minister of Justice, Prince Bola Ajibola, while extolling the qualities of the revered Nigerian jurist and the judge of the International Court of Justice from 1991 to 1994. They called on Nigerians to always think highly of Prince Bola Ajibola. They were speaking here in Lagos at the book presentation of Tribulations and Trophies. Bola Ajibola in his words.
Nigeria's former president, Chief Obasanjo, is among a long list of dignitaries and high-profile guests, including senior government officials, diplomats, industry leaders, and eminent figures from the legal and educational sectors, both within and outside Nigeria, who have gathered here to celebrate the launch of Tribulations and Trophies, Bola Ajibola's autobiography. In their remarks, the former Nigerian president, who chairs the event, and former vice president, Professor Sibajo's keynote address, reflect on Prince Ajibola's remarkable journey.
Bola had a great sense of humor. And he's a dreamer, or he was a dreamer.
He modeled integrity in public service and set exemplary standards of probity and accountability.
The book reviewer, Professor Awalu Yadudu, and the former Minister of Works, Mr. Babatunde Fashola, also share heartfelt tributes.
We have heard about Christian universities, and it is therefore no dispute that he was a lover of education. But his love for education did not start and end in the Christian University. In the Nigerian Law School, he instituted the Bola Ajibola Prize for the best student in civil procedure back then.
Readers will hear from the horse's mouth, as they say. I trust that when you eventually read the book, these accounts that he tells, you will agree with me that we are all the better that it is an autobiography and not a biography.
The Ogun State Governor is represented by the Deputy Governor, Engineer Noimot Salako Eyedele, who spearheads the formal unveiling and presentation of the book. Tribulations and Trophies offers a glimpse into Prince Ajibola's extraordinary life, from his early days to his illustrious career as a judge and politician, providing a unique perspective on his experiences and insights. Kelly Egiga, Channels Television News.
So let's catch up with some of the latest in the world of business. Here's Joker Rogers.
Thank you, Ayotunde. Welcome to Business News. We start off with some good news from the Dangote refinery, which has announced a reduction of its ex-depot price of petrol to 865 naira per litre. The price adjustment marks a 15 naira drop from the 880 naira for which it was sold to consumers in some parts of the country as at Wednesday, April 9, and a 65 naira reduction from the 930 naira per litre sold in most parts of the country in the last few weeks. The move comes a day after the Federal Executive Council directed the full implementation of the Naira for Crude agreement with local refiners. It also follows a review meeting earlier this week between the Minister of Finance and representatives from Dangote Refinery, which is a major beneficiary of the agreement. Meanwhile, the Petroleum Products Retail Outlets Owners Association of Nigeria has commended the government's decision to continue the Naira for Crude policy. In a statement by its national president, Billy Harry, the association says the development is part of a broader effort to stabilize the downstream sector. The association describes the Naira for Crude policy as a long-term strategy that will support local refining and conserve foreign exchange reserves. Petroleum is optimistic that the Naira for crude policy will insulate the nation's economy from the global market volatility, while the benefits of lower global crude prices will be passed on to consumers. In the meantime, the United Nations Assistant Secretary General and UNDP Regional Director for Africa, Ahuna Ezeakonwa, says the recent tariffs announced by the United States is a wake-up call for Africa to go beyond foreign aid. She believes the technicalities of foreign aid has been a hurdle for countries like Nigeria aiming to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, suggesting a focus on the non-oil sector as a way out. She made the comments during a visit to Channels Television's headquarters in Lagos, where she spoke in an exclusive interview with our foreign affairs correspondent, Amarachi Ubani.
You know, what is happening now globally, it's a wake-up call for Africa, you know, because what's making achievement of the SDGs that much more difficult? Yes, there was COVID, and yes, there's been a lot of financial turbulence, but the fact that we have not been able to go beyond aid to really prioritize things like structural transformation that allows us to add value to our raw materials, so that Africa is not just exporting raw materials rather than creating industries that will create jobs. That's one that needs to be addressed urgently. And the current tariff situation pushes us even harder, because you can't just be an oil economy anymore. The volatility is too much. You can crash any moment when the prices go down. So you have to be forced to look at the non-oil sector. And that forces you as a country to then say, where are the investments that we need to industrialize, to do a little bit more manufacturing?
Nigeria's stock market ended on a bullish note today as renewed investor interest in mostly banking stocks drove the all-share index higher at the close of trading. Willie Bong tells us more.
Welcome to the Stock Market Report. What a fantastic recovery for the NGX today after what seemed like a weak start to the week. Now, bargain hunting for choice stocks have driven the all-share index higher today by over 0.5%. Now, the boost came from across sectors. Banking made a rebound today with an uptick of over 2%, 2.65% to be precise. Access Holdings was not, looking so good today, but the banking sector is up. Consumer goods and oil and gas also bearing that green flag. Now, even though we saw in the oil and gas, Eternal losing nearly 4 naira today, gains in O&O propped up the index. Now, Caviton, Nimet, and VFD Group, let's look at them very quickly on the screen. They made it to the top 3 on the gainers chart, while ABC Transport, Eternal, and CAP PLC recorded significant losses today. It's been a really volatile week at the NGX, and we're hoping that these positive sentiments are sustained in the final trading day, and that's tomorrow, Friday. Those are the highlights for today, Thursday. Will Ibon signing out.
Thanks, Will. And finally, it's also a positive close for most of the major global stock markets today, for the reversal of fortunes for stocks on Wall Street after Wednesday's historic rally. This comes as investors worried that even with a short pause on some of the duties, economic activity will be slowed by the U.S. president singling out of China for higher tariffs. Let's take a look at the closing numbers. That's business news tonight. Back to you, Ayo, today.
Thank Thank you so much, Joke. Let's now head to our London studios with Around the World in 5 with Simon Pusey.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5.
Well, I thought that people were jumping a little bit out of line. They were getting yippy, you know. They were getting a little bit yippy, a little bit afraid.
World markets have bounced back after President Donald Trump announced a 90-day pause for countries hit by higher US tariffs, but a trade war with China has escalated. In a dramatic change of policy, just hours after levies against roughly 60 of America's trading partners kicked in, Trump said he was authorizing a universal lowered reciprocal tariff of 10% as negotiations continued. At the same time, he increased tariffs on goods from China to 125%, accusing Beijing of a lack of respect after it retaliated by saying it would impose tariffs of 84% on US imports.
Somebody had to do what we did, and I did a 90-day pause for the people that didn't retaliate, and that's what I did with China, because they did retaliate. A deal's going to be made with China. A deal's going to be made with every one of them, and there'll be fair deals. I just want fair. They will be fair deals for everybody.
The Chinese Foreign Ministry says if the US is determined to fight, then China's response will continue to the end. A Russian-American citizen has been released in a prisoner swap between Moscow and Washington. Amateur ballerina Ksenia Karolina, a Los Angeles resident, had been in prison in Russia for over a year after being arrested in early 2024. She was found guilty of treason for donating money to a US-based charity providing humanitarian support to Ukraine and was sentenced to 12 years in a penal colony. In exchange, the US reportedly freed Arthur Petrov, a dual German-Russian citizen, arrested in Cyprus in 2023. Hundreds of rescue workers in the Dominican Republic are in the final last-gasp stages of searching for survivors of a roof collapse at a nightclub in the capital Santo Domingo. At least 124 people died and more than 150 were injured in the incident. Hundreds of guests were inside the popular venue, attending a concert by merengue singer Ruby Perez. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says at least 155 Chinese citizens are fighting for Russia in the war. His comments come after 2 Chinese fighters were captured earlier this week, marking Kyiv's first official allegation that China was supplying Russia with manpower. Speaking to journalists, Mr. Zelensky reiterated his claim that there are many more Chinese nationals engaged in the conflict, based upon information gathered by his government. The International Court of Justice is hearing a case brought by Sudan accusing the United Arab Emirates of being complicit in the genocide during the current civil war. The 2-year conflict, which has pitted Sudan's army against the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, has led to tens of thousands of deaths and forced more than 12 million from their homes. Sudan alleges that the UAE has been arming the RSF, wiping out the non-Arab Masalit population of West Darfur. Zimbabwe's government has announced an initial payout of $3 million to white farmers whose farms were seized under a controversial government program more than 2 decades ago. It is the first payment to be made under the 2020 compensation agreement signed between the state and local white farmers, in which Zimbabwe committed to pay $3.5 billion for seized farmland. LeBron James, one of the most iconic figures in modern sports, has made history once again, this time in the toy aisle. Mattel has announced the release of a new Barbie in Mr. James' likeness, making him the first professional male athlete to be honored as a Ken doll. And Rory McIlroy's 4-year-old daughter delighted crowds by holding a 25-foot putt in the par 3 contest to steal the show on the eve of the Masters at Augusta National. But while Rory, Shane Lowry and patrons around the 9th green celebrated the putt, Poppy was less enamoured and just wanted a comforting hug from her dad. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel's studios in Lagos.
Thank
Thank you, Simon. Welcome to Sports News. The Nigeria Football Federation has confirmed it has put pen to paper to participate at this year's Unity Cup Invitational Tournament involving Nigeria, Jamaica, Ghana, and Trinidad and Tobago at the GTEC Community Stadium in Brentford, West London. The tournament will kick off with the first semi-final on May the 27th as Trinidad and Tobago tackle Jamaica in the first ever meeting on UK soil. The three-time African champions, Nigeria, will take on four-time African champions, Ghana, in the second semi-final on May the 28th, which will come with all the intrigues and elements of a 74-year rivalry between the two continental giants. All four teams will return on May the 31st for the grand finale, with the losers of the semi-final fixture featuring in the third-place game before the final to determine the Unity Cup 2025 champions. IOC Sports Director Kate McConnell says for the first time in the history of the Olympics, there will be more women's football team than the men at the 2028 Los Angeles Olympics. The expansion of the women's tournament reflects the shared commitment of FIFA, the IOC, and Early 28 to elevate women's sports, celebrate the strength of the women's game in the United States, and continue to open doors for more players on the world stage.
There's a significant variation, again, in the interests of the promotion of women's sport. We have traditionally in the Olympic Games had 16 men's teams and 12 women's teams. That will be reversed for Los Angeles 2028, and we will have 16 women's teams and 12 men's teams. This reflects the growth of women's football around the world. It's one of the most popular, fastest growing forms of sport around the world. We've seen incredible growth in women's participation in team sport, in popularity and visibility.
That sports is back to you, Ayo.
Many thanks, Chris. And the main news again. The federal government today pledged support for Nigeria's armed forces as it promised to equip them not only with modern weaponry, but also with the necessary training and technological innovation to confront contemporary security challenges. Also today, the governor of Edo State, Monday Okpebholo, said the state and federal government are collaborating to unravel the remote circumstances surrounding the killing of some hunters in Uromi last month. He made the statement at a meeting with the deputy governor of Kano State in Benin City. And the trade war between Washington and Beijing has deepened as U.S. President Donald Trump slammed China with a 145% tariff on Chinese goods entering America. That's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Ayo Tunde Balogun. Do have a good night.